So, the new Mael is coming out later tonight, if not tomorrow, depending on what time zone you're in, and we'll be doing live summons, so if you want to stop by and hang out, feel free. I'm recording this a little bit of ahead of time, so we're going to be using the JP patch notes as reference here, so there could be a couple of weird things that might get translated differently on the global version. For example, like conflagration is what they've translated for his first new skill type to be. Not exactly sure if that's going to be called conflagration on global or not. And then he also has a new debuff called Mark of Black Dot, which is what they've translated it to. That doesn't really sound like something that it would end up translating to for global. I imagine they might give it a different name or something. You never know. Sometimes they just stick with the raw translation kind of deal, but yeah, there's probably going to be a little bit of differences and maybe even some wording changes depending on the way that they do it on global, because obviously this is getting translated from a completely different language. So let's talk about the character a little bit, then we'll talk about the banner, and then I'll give you my sort of point of view on whether or not you should summon. So first and foremost, we have the new Mael. He is a light unit, which is very interesting because we just came out of a new light and dark unit for New Year's with, the one Escanor and the new Purgatory Meliodas, which is very, they're very good. And so I guess the fact that he's a light unit and he's competing very, very well against them in the meta is very fitting, of course. I mean, I think if anyone was going to be a light unit, it would be Mael, but I couldn't really see them doing it right back to back with these, crazy units that we've just got. So let's go over his skills a little bit. His passive is pretty good. It does lock him down into the Goddess team, but I don't necessarily think that's like a big problem because honestly, at this point, running multiple Broken Festival units together on the same team is a really annoying way to play the game, in my opinion, or it's just annoying to go up against. It's really dumb. I hate seeing, I'm just going to throw Escanor in the back line, or I'm just going to throw Melee in the back line because they're really good and they can basically hold their own and one-shot you with an ultimate or whatever the case may be. I think locking him down to the Goddess team kind of prevents some of that weird wackiness and should overall sort of help sort of balance the meta out, make it to where you can kind of counter different teams with different teams and sort of hopefully just even out and make the meta more enjoyable. I don't know, you might disagree on that, but that's just my point of view with it. But either way, passive is, for every Goddess race ally participating in the battle, increases all stats of the hero by 7%. So if you're running a full Goddess team, when they're on the field, he's going to be getting a 21% increase to every single one of his stats, which includes lifesteal, it includes pierce rate, it includes crit chance, crit damage. It's all getting increased. So that alone is really good. And damage dealt by 10%. So I'm pretty sure that's a 30% damage increase. Just straight up. And his grace also gives him a 20% damage increase, by the way. So he's going to be hitting very hard. If all of the participating allies are of Goddess race, applies Brilliance of the Sun on all on all allies. So he already gets this himself, if I'm not mistaken. But if you're running, completely Goddess allies, you're going to be getting it for everybody, which is damage taken minus 20%. So it gives you damage reduction. Kind of like Melee has 10% damage reduction on all of his stacks, but these cannot be taken away. And it's just baseline 20%. And then unaffected by stats decrease stats decrease effects in PvP. So you can't lower any of their stats, which makes it incredibly good. That's increasingly crazy the more you think about it, because every single team out there basically is going to lower your stats in some way, and the demon team is huge in the meta right now, and they lower a lot of stats and stuff like that. So going to completely negate that and make you not only baseline, but you're going to be increasing your own stats and everything with, for Mael at least, and he's going to be doing crazy big damage. So very, very good passive. We already talked about the grace. He increases, damage dealt by 20%. Very cool to just throw on any other damage dealer if you're not going to be running the Goddess team or running Mael on the field at least. So you can just kind of throw that on Melee or Escanor or Rimuru even, which is kind of cool. I don't know necessarily if this is going to be better to run. I guess it just depends on the unit. I guess if your unit has a ton of crit chance and you're hitting a lot of crits and stuff like that, Red Sariel could potentially be better with his grace, doing more damage per crit. But if they don't crit a lot, maybe the people that are in the meta have a lot of crit resistance, which is pretty true in the meta right now. A lot of characters have good crit resistance. You know, you could just run this and do just straight up 20% extra damage, which is very impressive. I mean, it's nice. I'm not gonna say it's like super good, like OP busted or anything like that, but it's pretty good. I mean, it's a little flat line. Like, I don't know, there's nothing too crazy about it. There's nothing like very interesting about a 20% increase. I've heard others describe it as a little boring, which I can agree with. There's nothing fancy about this, but it gets the job done. So his skills are: inflicts conflagration damage equal to 200% of attack on one enemy, which it just scales higher. It's 200, then 400, then 500, so pretty high multipliers there. And then conflagration is: for every brilliance of the sun on allies, increases damage by 30%. So brilliance of the sun is the buff that it puts on to all allies if you're running full goddesses, and I'm pretty sure he just has it by default. So that's just a lot of damage increase by using this skill. This skill hits incredibly hard, and the AoE also hits really hard, but I think the single target is on another level. Like, it does really good. You can kill melees pretty much turn one if you can get both his solar ray and his sun cutter skill off in the same turn. You can basically kill a melee like straight up from 100% HP. Granted, that might be without Tarmiel Link, you know, whatever the case may be, but it's very impressive. He cuts down the big boys, which is very good, I guess, for him. Solar Ray is his debuff skill. So it inflicts spike damage equal to 200% of attack on all enemies, so it's an AoE, and applies 1 Mark of Black Dot for 2 turns. And Mark of Black Dot is damage dealt minus 20%, stacks up to 3 times. So you're basically just going to want to put this on as much as possible, so that way they do less damage to you. Obviously, if they're running Angels, Margaret is a big competitor for the Angel team, so it's going to be kind of easily cleansed if you're going against that, but the Demon team doesn't have a cleanse. I don't know of any cleansers besides maybe if they're running like Red Zeldris for whatever reason, if they have the Holy Relic or something for him, possibly. But pretty good overall. And then we have the ultimate, which I have concerns about, but every new festival ultimate is pretty bad. Like, as far as like scaling wise, free to plays get blown out of the water by pay to wins every time. But it is cancels stances from all enemies. Additionally applies 3 Mark of Black Dot and inflicts Black Dot burst damage equal to 500% of attack on all enemies. And so it's not always applies 3, if I'm not mistaken. So it depends on what your ultimate level actually is, and I think this is a typo. At 6/6, it's supposed to be 3 stacks, but I'm pretty sure at 5/6 and 6/6, if I'm not mistaken. I think it says here, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what this text right here is. It basically applies it as a gray debuff instead of a red debuff, so it can stack on top of the red debuffs that you've maybe already applied with his AoE card. Which is a bit more broken because it's going to do even more damage on top of, that, and the scaling for the damage is insane. So Black Dot Burst is for every Mark of Black Dot on the enemy plus 5% additional damage dealt. But it starts at 5 at 1/6, which is very low, and scales all the way up to 50% at 6/6, which is very high. So the scaling is bad. If you're 6/6, you're not only going to be applying 3 gray ones, but depending on if you've already used his AoE card or not, you're going to be applying the red ones as well, and then doing 50% extra damage depending on how many you have, which is absurd. Like, that's so much additional damage that it's going to do. So a bit whaley. Very unfortunate that it's like that, but they all seem to be like that. So it's not even really worth complaining about because they know what they're doing. They're not going to fix it. So it is what it is. But he has really high stats. In general, I've seen a lot of gameplay over the last couple of days with him being on JP. Very good unit. Let's talk about the banner, and let's go over whether or not you should summon or not. So the banner, in my opinion, not very good. The last half of the banner is full of coin shop sins and coin shop commandments, which is not very good. You do have a couple of good units on here. I think the festival lineup in general is pretty good. I think old school festival Zeldris could maybe be replaced. I wish they would have put Trader Melee on here at the very least, because he's the oldest dark unit that we have. He's over a year old. It's not like he's super competitive in PvP anymore, and he's just a good PvE unit to have for anyone. So having him in this banner would have been a huge win, but unfortunate because they decided to put Light Liz instead. This is technically a Holy War Festival banner instead of a Grand Festival, so it's not necessarily supposed to be rerunning like old, like light or dark units or anything, so I'm assuming they just threw Light Liz on here as like a here you go kind of thing, like congrats, here it is. But I really wish Dark Melee was on here too, like the old school Trader Melee. But it is what it is. Festival lineup, pretty decent. Honestly, I can use a couple of these characters still. I don't know if it's just going to depend on everybody's account on whether or not you need these characters or not, of course. Couple of decent demons in here. So you have Ominous Nebula Zeldris, who's technically a seasonal unit. And then you have the newer Demon Chandler and Demon Cusack, which are really good if you can get them really invested into. They have pretty good CC, and they can help out the team with their passives quite a bit. So if you can invest into those, they're really nice to have. You have all of the older Archangel units, including Red Tarmiel and Green Sariel. Obviously, both of those are great units. People still need Red Tarmiel quite a bit. I was really hoping for that Wish rate-up event for the SSR tickets during this global festival, but I don't think we're getting that, at least not in part 1, maybe part 2 they'll do it. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. But Red Tarmiel's on the banner, so that's cool if you can pull him. All of the coin shop units, very disappointed in, because you can access those all year around. There's no exclusivity there, but it is what it is. And then we have the last 2 units, which are actually not too bad. We have Blue Elat, who has become really valuable for Nidhogg for whatever reason, so that's nice. And we have Nanashi, who got a really good relic recently, so that's actually kind of nice too if you need him. So overall, half of the banner is very disappointing. The rest of it is mediocre to good. So it's okay, I guess. Depending on what you need, could be a really good banner. Depending on what you already have 6/6 or maxed out or don't need, it could be a really bad banner for you. But yeah, he's rated up. He's a light unit, so he's probably going to be pretty exclusive. I highly doubt that he's going to be on too many banners throughout this year, at least not until towards the end of the year, like a lot of people have been speculating. Obviously, that is just speculation, so who knows? They might be super generous and throw him on banners throughout the year, but it's probably going to have to be a pretty special banner or some sort of crazy festival banner or something like that for them to really just throw him in all willy-nilly. So yeah, I think because he's got a really whaley ult, you're probably going to want to try to pull multiple copies if you're going to go hard on him and you really want to use him as a goddess character in PvP. I think in general, because he has a grace, that obviously makes him like probably twice, if not 3 times as valuable as a character to me, because you can always use a good grace on a character. He's light, so he's exclusive, so you'd like to try to pull a copy of him if you can. He's pretty good for Nidhogg, because they're steering Nidhogg in this weird goddess team sort of direction. So I can highly, and I would imagine that there's going to be a high probability that the next unit for Nidhogg, like the Nidhogg specific unit, is more than likely going to be a goddess character because of the way that they've done Freya's Holy Relic, which is new to this patch as well. And so I think if you can pull a copy of him, if you can just go one and done at the very least, even if you're not super interested in running him, you're going to help future-proof your account by, probably quite a bit. But obviously it just depends on how many diamonds you have, if you're willing to spend on him. Obviously there's been a lot of speculations about a new collab coming out sometime in the first half of the year, and we're starting to go into month 3, so it's it could be coming up any time now. Most of the time they end up doing a collab not too long after the global anniversary festival ends, so it could be within like the next 2 or 3 banners, who knows. But I don't know. If you have the extra resources and you're willing to spend on him, I definitely think grabbing a copy is going to be beneficial. Is he a must summon? Absolutely, you have to have him 100%. Don't skip this banner kind of deal. Probably not. You can skip him if you really want, but I do think that he's very useful in more than one game mode, so having a copy would be super beneficial. But that's it from me. If you're skipping the banner, let me know in the comments below why you're going to. I would definitely like to, hear from the people who are, definitely like 100%. I don't care about this unit. Skipping him 100%. Don't care. I'm just going to wait for the collab or whatever it is coming out next. And I can understand why you would do that, but that's it from me. So thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. A little longer than I was anticipating for it to be, but yeah, I don't know, kind of hype, kind of interesting, kind of big. So see you guys for summons tonight. Subscribe. Profit.